Feelings are just interpretations, remember? They're just stories. They're not based on facts. You went because of someone said something to you, and it could have been a comment, often with money. It's a little comment. It's like, oh, that person sells themselves for their work. Or that person, like entrepreneurs, in my family, it was a big one was, oh, yeah, entrepreneurs are crooks.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Caprino, and welcome to my podcast, Finding Brave. I've created this show for everyone who longs to create something bold and brave in their life, to rise up, speak up, and stand up for who they are, and to reach their highest and biggest visions. Each week, I'll be speaking with inspiring guests from all walks of business, leadership, entertainment, the creative arts, and the entrepreneurial world. And they'll be sharing their intimate stories of finding brave and offer their best strategies for building your most rewarding, joyful, and meaningful life, business, and career. Hey folks, is it finally time to make a big change in your career, but you just can't figure out how to do it? It's time for help and time to invest in yourself and finally understand and shift what hasn't been working for you. Join me as I coach and guide you through powerful, proven steps that will unlock your fullest and happiest potential. I've worked with thousands of professionals across 6 continents, and the results have been transformative for them. For a limited time, also take advantage of my 10% discount for you, my amazing Finding Brave listeners. Save 10% off my one-on-one 6-session career and leadership breakthrough program and my most powerful you video training course that helps you close the 7 most damaging power and confidence gaps that are in the way of your ultimate success and happiness. You can work with me in both of these programs for the comfort of your own home at your own pace. Now's the time. Don't wait. Build the career you're ready for. Check out the show notes below for details, and I can't wait to support you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. I'm very excited about today, about our beautiful guest, Finnian Kelly. Thank you, Finnian, for taking the time in the middle of your amazing book launch and everything. You've got skiing in Aspen. You're crashingly busy, having just finished your audio book. Thank you for taking the time. I'm so grateful, and I cannot wait to learn from you.
An absolute pleasure, Kathy, because I feel like we are kindred spirits and have some strong views which are similar.
I think you're so right. All right, people, we're talking about a lot of things, but Finnian's new book, Intentionality, is so very powerful. And, you know, I did a deep dive into your stuff, Finnian, and I found, you've got to go check it out, people. I found a YouTube video where you're showing you're not the center of the attention. It's the breath work that people are doing, and they're crying and they're sighing. And I was saying before we pressed record, I sometimes get a real feeling when I'm about to hear something that I personally need. Like it makes my system not nervous, but what would you say? You probably even know what it makes my system feel.
It's alive, anticipatory. You're on your path. This is going to be the next step.
That's it. So thank you again. All right, people, we're talking about a lot of things, but particularly how to live with intentionality and what that really means. But let me tell you about Finnian. Finnian is the founder of Intentionality Inc., a sought-after speaker and executive coach and leading breathwork facilitator. It's so fascinating. He helps world-changing leaders implement his intentionality methodology to find new levels of fulfillment and growth in their creative endeavors, relationships, and overall well-being. A successful entrepreneur and a retired officer in the Australian military. I mean, I could talk to you for 100 hours. Finnian has been dubbed the business mystic because of his unique ability to awaken consciousness in business and inspired CEOs and leadership teams to have a more expansive human experience. Finnian is also a partner and CXO, Chief Experience Officer of Cascada, a revolutionary sanctuary featuring hydrothermal pools, wellness classes, and boutique hotel rooms located in Portland, Oregon. I can't wait to come. Mm-hmm. So there we go. Now, My challenge is going to be doing this in 30 minutes. So,
Yeah.
stop me, shut me up. But can you first tell us a bit about how you got into this work? I'm a former therapist and I got to go, what happened? What happened that led you to this? Can we hear?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you know, being a therapist, we generally are helping people on the things that we needed to help the most ourselves. So this really came about for me was a deep desire to experience life in a different way. I'd done the traditional path, which I felt like I was um, the material path, the success path, and I achieved my vision for my life, and the illusion came crashing down. It went, what? That feeling never came. It never made me feel peaceful or joyful.
Was
And
this before the
effectively,
military, Finian, or
this was
after?
after. No, after. Military was
Okay.
first. That was my first thing in my life, and it was actually when I was about 30. After I'd moved to Colorado, I'd retired again, and
Wow.
my life just sort of exploded a little bit. Not a little bit,
In
it
a good way?
exploded. No, well, yes, in hindsight, in a good way. At the time, it was very challenging. And I often talk about my work, and I talk about it's all about awakening, becoming more present, and it's about recoding the subconscious. And I share that there's really three main ways to share the subconscious, recode the subconscious, and we might get there later. But there's also a fourth that I don't openly talk about. And the fourth is trauma. It's going through such a traumatic incident that you have no choice but to wake up. However, I wouldn't recommend that as a pathway because you don't always come back from it. It can be very, very challenging and very, very confronting. So I'm very grateful that I saw it as an opportunity to transcend and learn from. And because of that, I have a great body of work that I now get to share with the world. But I don't want people to go through that experience. It's one of those ones where we don't have to have pain in order to have gain. Like I really don't like that saying, like no pain, no gain. I believe you don't have to go through all this challenge and heartbreak and all these things in order to keep having a more expansive human experience.
I'm so stunned. I know you see this. Everything I say, you're going to be like, uh huh. There's so
Mhm.
much serendipity sometimes in what someone says to you. I cannot believe that you're speaking of trauma. Literally 5 minutes ago, I was recording the intro to a repeat episode that I'm going to be airing. And it's about the seventh power and confidence gaps, which is about allowing the past trauma to continue to shape and define you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy to me is, my first book was Breakdown Breakthrough. And I know that you see this. We humans are so resistant to change that it's usually a breakdown moment that gives us the breakthrough. But I say the same thing you do. Not, could we not wait till the breakdown experience to have the breakthrough? Can we not
Definitely.
force
Mhm.
ourselves to be so reluctant to see what needs to be changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a couple of things I'd love to add on that because
Please.
it's very topical for me. The one everyone goes, oh, we don't like change. The only thing that is guaranteed in life is change. It's impermanence. So it always makes me laugh when we go, oh, I don't like change. And I went, no, that is life. That is what we want. So we need to learn how to embrace it. And then the other part of this is people have a way when they're having life experiences to really think this is happening to them. They become the victim and everything's so hard and because of that they suffer through it. And that actually creates the trauma a lot of the time because
Right.
trauma is never the event. It's the unexpressed feeling of the event at that time. It was like I didn't want to process that feeling, so then I'm going to suppress it, and then the subconscious creates a program and just keeps reliving it. Now, the other funny thing about any challenging event is that when you talk to people, as you do, if I think there's 280 podcasts or something, if you ask them, all right, what were the most defining moments in their life? They will always talk about the hard times and the challenges. So then I go, well, if we know that it's going to be something in the future that you look back and go, oh, this was actually the greatest growth opportunity in my life, and I would never trade it in for anything else, then in the present moment, when we start getting that sensation of, oh, this is hard, this is happening to me, that should be almost a moment where we flip it and go, oh, wow, this is my moment. This is my growth opportunity. And it may just change your experience with it. It doesn't change the event. Like if you have a suffering illness or someone's just died, that's not going to change, but your experience with it can change. And that's ultimately what life is. It's just a series of experiences.
I love it so much. I'm going to say something that maybe people are going to say, oh, Kathy lost it. But, I've done some energy healing work on people years ago.
Yeah,
And
same.
I know this is your world. And I sometimes have seen like a video running in my mind of them. And usually it's an experience that has shaped what they're coming. Now, I don't do hands-on work anymore, but I just want to throw this out. Whether you all believe this or not, I don't think that's the important thing. I'm just going to say it. I have seen some of my past lives. I believe that we have many lives. Why is that important? I do believe there's a soul factor here that we come into lives to learn and grow. But if we don't recognize that, why I'm bringing it up is back to your point. I think that people say when they're looking back on a painful but yet expansive moment, they say, I'm so blessed to have it. But to be honest, I think our human mind is very reptilian and very limited. And so if you ask them, you have a choice. In 3 years, you're going to have a really hard time, but it is going to change everything, perhaps for the better, depending on how you approach it. Or you can coast along the way you are. What do you think would be the percentage of people who would say, bring on the hard?
Yeah, I actually think there would be a very high percentage when you actually create a perspective of their past, if you actually help them see that this has actually been their growth opportunities. Because I do think something will take hold of them, just like you had that experience where it wasn't your human personality which was identifying that this was going to be a great conversation. It was a soul connection.
Right.
And that's what we have to do whenever we're going through those hard times. It doesn't even have to be hard. That's the crazy thing about this. You can be through what we perceive as really hard things, but if you connect to your higher self, your spirit, and ask that for guidance, then you will be like, oh, I can actually go through this with grace. And we see people do that because you'll see those people who they just seem unfazed by events. And it's not that they're not feeling emotions, they're actually feeling them. That's what they're really doing. In the present
They're
moment,
not
they're
fighting and
feeling it.
bloodying themselves against them. They're
Yes,
like, wow,
exactly.
this wasn't what I had in mind. Oh,
Yeah,
what? Okay, what am I learning here? What am I
yeah,
doing? Right?
yeah. They're feeling the loss, and I definitely witnessed that with my partner's mother died 2 years ago in a tragic accident. Just fell down a set of stairs,
Oh,
and it was a really interesting experience for me because I'd just gone to a 10-day silent meditation retreat beforehand. I literally come out of the meditation retreat feeling bliss, heaven, and it's all about non-attachment, feelings, feeling them in the present moment, notice them and everything is impermanent, rising and passing. And then 4 days later, our whole world just got thrown into another disarray. And I was able to do this with grace. I was able to feel it. I felt the loss. Like this was a mother who I had always dreamt of having. And she was suddenly gone. And I felt it, but I was also able to show up for my partner. And it was so different. And my previous partner's father went through the same experience, fell down a set of stairs and passed away. And I wasn't able to show up in that same place because I hadn't got to that level yet. And that was actually one of the catalysts to sort of go down this path. So it is really amazing. It is possible. And I can tell you, life is just so much more peaceful and more joyful and more loving when you can experience that because you're not caught up in your own story and your own personality and all your hardships, and instead you're just going, wow, yes, there's this duality. I've just lost someone I loved, but then also there's all these beautiful things happening around me right now. And that's really that key of life, is that it's both the positive and negative, and what we think is positive and what is negative is just our perspective.
Isn't it Shakespeare who said nothing is but thinking makes it so? I mean, that guy was a genius.
Really was.
You're right. This is horrible. I'm dealing with career issues, and people are like, this is the worst thing. I was literally sexually harassed, gender bias, gender
Mhm.
discrimination, toxic colleagues, narcissistic bosses. I would say, when you've had enough of that, it is time to think about, hang on here now. This is not random. It can't be random because it's
Mhm.
80% of my experience over 20 years.
Mhm.
So, what am I doing to sustain and attract and co create? So, anyway, there we go. Tell us, and you can talk about your book. If I know this is the
Mhm.
framework of your years of work, but what is it that we need to understand? If we could walk people through some doable steps about, you call it intentionality. I'm interested in that. Can we talk about that? Um,
Totally.
when I
Yeah.
hear of that word intentionality, what do I think? And I didn't think about this before. I think about choice. That to the extent my limited human brain can do this, I am going to try to choose consciously from my higher self every word out of my mouth, every reaction I have, every way that I'm showing up. I'm choosing which direction I could go. Am I right? I didn't prep you on this. What do you
You,
think?
you did so beautifully. I was just reflecting on my introduction, and there was a lot of words that you used in there were in my introduction.
Wow.
So
Tell us
I'm
all.
glad so what your process was there was really great. A lot of people are using the word intentionality or intentional, and it's in the zeitgeist right now. It's dropped in language all the time. But I don't think people do what you just did, where they actually reflect and go, what does that actually mean? Like, because
Wow.
it's just a word, and
Right.
words are just like representations of something else. And I loved how you went a little bit deeper and you started asking questions. And the words of choice was really beautiful. So for me, in the simplest definition, I define intentionality as identifying the feelings you want to feel and taking incremental steps to making that a reality. So it's that combination of choice, but
Yeah.
the key thing is you're choosing the feeling, and the feelings are more important than anything else because that's right now, that's all we have. We're a set of feelings, and often we go, oh yeah, I'm going to go on that career path, or I'm going to do this workout because you hope it gives you a feeling. So we need to flip it and decide the feelings. And now feelings don't just happen by themselves. Like they're a byproduct. They're a byproduct of our subconscious beliefs, and we can override our subconscious beliefs with conscious intention and go, well, okay, what are the behaviors in my present moment? Because that's all we have is in the present moment, which are likely to lead me to have more of those feelings. So if I want to feel peace and love and joy, when I feel that tension coming up because I'm in a little bit of conflict, and I know that pattern where I'm going to yell at someone or be unkind to my partner, I reflect and go, oh, that doesn't generally lead to me to feeling much peace and love and joy. So instead, I may do some form of other behavior. And then through that behavior, you result in a feeling. And then after enough of those feelings, the subconscious goes, oh, they want more of these feelings. I'm going to create a program which makes that feeling. And then now your life just happens on autopilot because that's what the subconscious does. So it's this relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and then the universal mind, which is just this one energetic source where everything comes from. And that's what really intentionality is about how do we get alignment with our minds? So we're just one and there's no conflict. Because you'll see, as you've seen with a lot of therapy, people say they want this thing in their life, and you look at them and go, I don't think you really do, because your behaviors are completely out of line with this. And what is happening is that there is some awareness that they want something else, but they're not willing to override their programs. And that's really the practice of intentionality, is going, okay, I'm committing. I'm identifying these programs aren't serving anymore, and I'm going to go for something different.
All right, Finian, I'm going to ask you to do something with me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I've ever done this, and it's brave of me to do it. And if you would be willing,
I'm always willing.
the reason I want to do this, I want you to coach me on something. I live and breathe this. I write about it. And I myself have an experience of a block that no matter how much I try to do what you're saying, it's not working.
Yep.
Would you be open to
I'm
5 minutes
100%.
of
Yeah.
coaching me on this?
I think it'll be brilliant. We can introduce belief loops. I think it'll be very,
Oh, good.
very helpful for your audience.
And, here I am, an entrepreneur and a coach. So I'm being really vulnerable here, but
Yeah, you are. It's very courageous.
the biggest challenge I have always had, and no matter what kind of new thinking and heart-centered I can't, is it's over money, the conflict of money. And
Oh, it's very common.
I'm in good company.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about the challenge, I even said it to my son, who's like a little business advisor for me. I literally feel like I used to say this in the corporate world, and unfortunately, I still say it. I may make a lot of money in a particular assignment or project, but I'm going to feel like a prostitute doing it.
Mm.
And even yesterday, my son said, "Really, Mom? I mean, that's
Yep.
a harsh word. What I mean, I don't mean sexually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give away. I'm going to feel so conflicted. I'm going to give away my values. I'm going to undermine my values. I'm not going to be able to tell the truth, which is this is a messed up system organization. I don't want to support it.
Mm-hmm.
With an executive coaching for that person isn't the problem. You're the problem. Are you following?
I'm 100% following.
But what
Right.
happens to me, so this is what I need help with. I certainly understand that this conflict is sustaining conflict. No matter how much I try to breathe into it. And I think it's from a past life, I got to be honest. But what would you do with someone who shares, I want to be intentional, I'm doing my best to be intentional, but I'm getting hijacked?
Yeah.
Is
So
this
first,
helpful to go through this, or is
you're
this?
doing it beautifully. The way you're describing it is really great. So first I would go, thank you, and really great, because the first step of any transformation is awareness. We have to go through an awareness step. When we're not aware, it means the program's just running and we have no idea. It's just happening and we don't even know. So whether we get that from other people reflecting back, that's where coaches and therapists or peer groups can be really good, or just through your own self and curiosity where you're journaling enough and you go, I keep doing this. So that's great. Then we have to actually accept it. We have to accept that. And it's quite hard sometimes because we sometimes have an identity around ourselves which is in conflict with actually how we behave. And that's until we accept that that's what we are currently, doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It's just like full acceptance. Oh, I can accept that what feelings are you having right now? If you had to describe, as you sit here and you reflect in this circumstance, like when you say, I have to do that, I'm going to be a prostitute, in your language, what do you actually feel? What comes up for you?
It's constant confusion. It's like I understand that I can control not control. Look at that. Shape what happens, shape what comes to me.
Yep.
So why am I continually struggling with what is coming my way that gives me confusion on how to respond? In other words, I can sense when a situation is going to make me feel like I have to give up my values.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that I don't have the strength to say no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think I
So
know
when
the
you,
answer because it's typically a lot of money.
yeah, yeah. So there's a bit of confusion. I
There's
think there's,
confusion, there's
what else is there?
disappointment, there's
Yeah, disappointment.
shame,
Yes,
there's
great.
humiliation,
Great. So now we're getting some strong feelings, and you can feel that. And I wonder if you just checked in with your body right now.
heart's
Can you just
beating.
explore? Yeah, heart's beating fast, the sensations, it's right there. So that's a really important part. There's always a body connection with a feeling, and there's also a change in your breath. Every single time there's a change in a feeling, you'll get a change in breath and you'll get a sensation in your body. And that's a good alert to us sometimes. So now, the Kathy from I Know in My Limited Space, she's out there serving the world. She has such big respect. There's so much impact. For you to be and actually be in this place right now and having those feelings, that can be very challenging because it's like, well, am I a fraud? Am I like, who am I? I'm doing all this, but I'm feeling this right now.
Right.
And that's often why we push it away and we won't do it. So we just have to accept it. Doesn't mean we're a bad person or any of your work has lesser meaning. That's another problem where I think a lot of people out there serving think they have to be like these perfect beings. I'm like, you don't have to at all. You just have to be humble and vulnerable like you are.
Oh,
So,
sweet.
so accepting that, which is really beautiful. Then once you've accepted, that's the moment where you can start exploring, well, how is this playing out for me? And like, how is this showing up? And something which really helps with that is something called a belief loop. So I believe everything pretty much in our life is determined by our subconscious. This is an example right now. Your conscious mind goes, I don't want to do this anymore. But the subconscious program is so much more powerful than your conscious mind. So something there is running. And that's a great example where you're like, oh, yeah, this isn't working for me right now. I want to change. So our beliefs shape our thoughts, which shape our behaviors, which determine our feelings, which then reaffirm the belief cycle. And this is why over time our beliefs get stronger. And it's also why change gets harder over time because the subconscious, by its nature, is an energy efficient machine. That's all it cares about. It wants to go, I want to save as much energy for pretty much the conscious mind, the brain. They're not directly related, but the brain is an energy consuming thing. So it doesn't have to think every day doing mundane tasks like brushing your teeth, tying up your shoelaces, driving your car. If you had to concentrate every time you're doing that, you'd be exhausted and you couldn't actually create anything. So that's why the subconscious exists. It goes, all right, that's a program that's going to happen a lot of times. I'm going to make that so they never have to think about that again. The problem with it is it doesn't have the ability to deduce between truth and untruth. It doesn't know that this program is going to serve you or not. It just goes, oh, this is the direction I'm getting, so I'm just going to do that for them.
And it gets that direction from beliefs.
Yeah, well,
Beliefs.
actually, it's from impressions, and what it actually gets it from is the strongest feelings. This is the real paradox of this: is the subconscious creates everything from the feelings. So if at some point in your life, and generally it all happens back from our childhood, you felt a particular way,
Yes.
and feelings are just interpretations. Remember, they're just stories. They're not based on facts. You went because if someone said something to you, and it could have been a comment, often with money, it's a little comment. It's like, oh, that person sells themselves for their work, or that person like entrepreneurs. In my family, it was a big one. Was oh yeah, entrepreneurs are crooks. So
Oh boy.
so then you perceive this and you hear this saying enough, and then you create a story. They're like, oh, that's a bad thing, or someone said makes you feel I'm not worthy. So then we create a program of
Yeah.
I'm not worthy, and it just keeps playing out over and over in our life.
To support your comment, it was my beloved dad who's in heaven. Didn't mean, but I asked to go to France in high school. Didn't have the money myself, and because I was taking French, and he said to me, "How dare you ask that?"
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, "What's the harm in asking? All you
Uh-huh.
have to do." But I'll never forget that shame. How dare you ask me
Mhm.
that? Could it be something like that? I'm thinking, yes.
You're 100% spot on. So most people don't have enough depth in their curiosity to explore this as quickly as you do, but you have a great awareness. But there's always a time. There's always something. There's a moment, and often you don't have to remember it. If I would, that was my next step. I was just going to drop you into a tiny little meditation, and we would have gone straight there, and you would have tapped into it, and it would have
Shoot.
come up, and you would have been like, "Wow, here I am. This is what's happening." Now, you as an adult looks at that younger version of yourself and goes, Dad was just being
It was
just a
me.
just a dad, a cranky old man.
And I think he felt
Yeah,
bad he couldn't pay, so he shamed
exactly.
me for it.
Yep,
That's it.
exactly. But your younger version couldn't work that out. And now that's created a program which is just playing out over and over and over again. So there's a couple of ways we can go about the recoding process. Two main ways. One is through repetition. So the subconscious creates programs through repetition. It's through impressions. People are just over and over again getting imprinted on. And then one day it goes, oh, I'm going to form a belief around that so it doesn't have to waste energy. And then it creates that life. So the way to recode it as well is through repetition. So what happens now is we create a new positive belief loop to cancel out the negative belief loop. And we go, okay, what is it ultimately you'd like to feel?
That I love what I'm doing and am treated the way I want to be treated so I can treat others the way I want.
Yep.
And I'm respected and valued.
Yep. All right. So respected and valued. Great. The other ones were thoughts, which was really good. It was like, I'm
Oh, you
valued for
asked me what I
yeah,
feel, what I want to
yeah, I
feel.
want to feel. Yeah. Yeah. And
Happy,
that's what,
respected, valued, at peace,
great.
joyful, not afraid.
Great. And what core belief would you need to have in order for this? So what do you think the negative belief was in relation to what you've been running so far?
That it's increasingly more difficult to attract joyful work that doesn't impede on my value system.
Yeah, I think there's something around that. It's almost like with, and this happens a lot in the service spiritual world as well.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's unfair to charge for your services, or if you're
It's so
doing
hard.
good, you shouldn't charge for it. So that's often a lot of conflict for a lot of people, and that's why they're in this place where they're wanting to do good, but then their money story takes over and they can't have the impact that they actually want. So there's something to explore there.
Yep.
So for myself, I see it very differently, and this is where
Tell me.
beliefs are just beliefs. Remember, they're just stories, they're perspectives. I go, the work we do is the most meaningful. Why aren't we getting rewarded the most? Like it's so why is it that someone who's selling something which is not contributing to society, like Coca-Cola, or someone who is doing like oil, toxic gases, or anything like this, you're allowed to make money if it's hurting people. But for someone who is literally going to increase consciousness, make people feel better, help humanity, we can't charge for it. See how that's just a
So not right.
it's a coding. It's intentional as well. It's a very intentional practice. People who are in leadership and charge around the world know how the mind works and they're profiting off this.
But isn't it also, it is what our human society has done.
Yeah, as a
I
collective.
believe there's other places. I believe there's other things.
Yeah.
We're in it in a very limited, our brains are reptilian. So
Mm-hmm.
we can try to turn the Titan. I'm not trying to resist you. I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I'm thinking. It's not random that we believe this.
No, it's definitely not random.
I mean,
It's a
because it's
series.
rewarded to believe that.
It
That
has been, but that's
so what
where
do
we
we
have to
do?
change the script. We have to like change it, and you start seeing that you can have both. And this is where being around other people, like I see this around in my peer group all the time. Someone does something, and they look at them and they go, "Oh wow, like they can charge this much, and they're doing really good work, and their clients really appreciate it. So why can't I?" And that's how we start rising up together, making that change. So the first is like you need to map out that new positive belief loop. And if someone has a belief that if they're good, adding good value, they don't have to, they don't have to be in conflict with the values and they can get rewarded well. What thoughts would they have? The thoughts would be, well, I'm adding a lot of impact. People want to work with me. There are a lot of good people out there who are doing good and also can make money. And then the behaviors are they talk with that language, they talk positively, they look for opportunities, they add value, they only take on jobs that actually represent their values, because if they believe that, they wouldn't take on anything else. And then through that, they would get a reaction from other people, and it would start driving outcomes of feeling valued and appreciated. And every day you have to do that practice. Now, it's not going to come easy because you remember the subconscious is an automatic program, which is more powerful. So you have to bring conscious awareness to it. And that's why I love to write out the belief loop and I go, right, what are the behaviors of the person who has this belief? And every day I'm making a decision, I look through that list of behaviors and I go, even though this is going to make me feel sick right now, I'm going to say no to that opportunity because I trust that when I do this, I'm going to create a new positive belief loop. And that's the sort of that's like, I like to describe it as the brushing the teeth, the flossing the teeth. It's like you don't see the benefits straight away, but if you don't do it, you know where it's going to end up. And you're going to end up at the dentist and there's going to be problems. Now, the second option, and sometimes we need this, sometimes the program is so strong.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that for you. Like the program is deep. You're a very conscious, very aware person, but it's still playing out. And what are these programs formed from? Feelings, suppressed feelings, not wanting to feel it. And what is that? It's just energy. So sometimes we need to use energy to go in and unblock that energy, that blocked energy, and release it. And that's something what I call energy interventions. Oof. Energy interventions are exactly that. It's where we use some form of energy in a very short amount of time, and we can recode a subconscious in 10, 15 minutes. So things like breath work, a very deep breath journey, where we take you on a breath journey and we go back to that time, we start breathing, and I go back to that time when you were a young girl and your dad said this, and we clear it and we put a different perspective. And then we start bringing in new positive energy and you start coding your subconscious and going, I am worthy, I am valued, I'm appreciated. And over again. And in that present moment, the subconscious can change. Plant medicine's another one, sensory deprivation, things like darkness retreats or silent meditation retreats, other things like EMDR, EFT, anything that gets you into a feeling state. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. And you can recode that, but this is the secret though. Some people think, wow, I've done the energy intervention, I'm transformed. And then they just stop. If you go to the dentist and get a beautiful deep clean, reconstructive work, and you come out, you'll have a beautiful smile. But if you don't brush and you don't floss, what happens?
Terrible.
You
Bacteria,
go back.
decay.
Exactly.
There I am again in the dentist chair.
So you need both. You need to be doing both. And that's where intentionality is every single day. You have to connect and go, what is it that I want to feel? And how am I going to bring those actions into reality to make it happen? Because if I don't, someone else is going to be coding my subconscious because the subconscious is just open all the time. So that's where we take back agency of our life. And it's really the moment where you get liberation, this one moment where you suddenly, and you said it, and it was such a beautiful thing. You said, I'd been sexually abused, all these different areas. Now, it's so easy for you to be the victim of that circumstance. You're like, how could I have been the contributor to that? But because you've actually brought this in, I feel safe to share this, is in that moment, when you realize that you have contributed to everything that has happened in your life, that can be really confronting because you go, how could this happen? But if you fully just accept that, it's also the liberation moment because it means that you can change anything you want in your life.
All right, I got to ask you this.
Anything you want.
Look at you go. I'm going to pay you $1,000 after. Can I ask? I have been sexually harassed, not abused. However, when you said that, oh my God, I remembered when I was a 16-year-old girl at a temp job at a chemical company. I was a receptionist, and one of the chemists came over and just put his hand on my boob. I did nothing. I put my finger on, I could do the loudspeaker and say something, and he left me alone. Can you believe that that is what comes to me? So here's my question to you for people who are listening. How did you put it? You said something that made me think, not that I'm responsible. You said a word.
It's liberation. Well,
no, that I contributed to it.
You directly contributed.
How did I contribute to being a 16-year-old girl and he grabs me?
Yeah.
in the breast. How did I
Yeah.
contribute to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Really great
I don't
question.
think I did.
So there's a few great things here. One, things are coming forward for you,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. You're like, oh, I'm starting to have some awareness. So you've already brought in past lives.
Yeah.
So sometimes karma, we don't know why it's happening, but karma is just things from the past that needs to be released in the present moment. That can be one. Another side is your higher self chose when it was like, all right, I'm going to come into Kathy in this life to these parents, and then I'm going to go have all these circumstances because I want to know what it's like to be sexually
A victim.
abused, a victim. So then I have compassion to have other people, or I can learn from these experiences and teach all of these people around the world so they can realize that just because an event has occurred to you doesn't mean it has to define you for the rest of your life. So this is one of the challenges. We never really know,
I love
but
it.
everything is just a perspective. So why not choose the perspective that serves you? Why not choose the perspective that brings more peace and love and joy with you? Now, I want to address what happened with you just then, because that is sexual abuse. Like, and now you can have some reason and you're like, oh, okay. And your younger self didn't know what to do at that point of time. And it starts creating stories of like, did I attract that?
Right.
Like, and this now you're tying into the money side. It's because your
I had a
word
job.
prostitute was very, very strong, and you are
I
getting
made the
paid
connection.
in that place, and so then you're like, well, maybe I have to accept that. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my job. And we run off a fear-based program of survival. And I have complete compassion for younger Kathy. Like, how confusing, like how confronting. And there wasn't support mechanisms back there. But now suddenly something has been tied to money and sexual
I have
experiences.
never made that connection. And I can't thank you enough. I 100% believe what you shared. You know, I've just reread a book, Journey of Souls. It's about life between lives and
Mhm.
why we choose lives in the bodies
Yeah.
we choose. I I love it. And to your point, whether we think it's fact or not, why aren't we going to choose a belief that allows us to grow? So to me, rather than I was just a poor, hapless victim of abuse, what if I signed up for this? What if I signed up for these challenges? Do I want to get to age 98 like my mother and not have worked through these, not to become more empowered and more intentional? No.
Mhm.
So I adore it, Finny. That was so helpful. And here you gave me a therapy coaching energy healing session. Now I want to give back a little to you. What have we, to me, you've walked through the framework of your book a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Would you
Mm-hmm.
agree?
Yeah, we definitely have. We saw it live experience and also at a very sensitive subject because there's certain things that people think, oh no, I can adopt this philosophy for this area of my life, but I can't do it for this area. And a lot of the time is sexual things and illnesses and injuries. They think that that doesn't apply. It's all the same. It's the
It's
same
all the
same
same.
philosophy. It's the same formula. It works. Now, I really want to make it clear quickly, though. Some people might be hearing this and going, it sounds like we're excusing the behaviors of those people. We're not
Mm.
at all. Zero. We're just identifying that we have somehow contributed to this, and every single person is a messenger in our life. There's a book called The Presence Process, and I love his language, Michael Brown,
Mm.
about things happening in our lives that are just messengers. And that might have been a little message that is somehow you've learned from this. And you're exactly right. Yes, we can make it all about the other person, but then I'm going to go and be miserable at the end of my life. And I
What am
don't
I
want
going to
that.
get from
I'm
that?
not serving
It
anyone.
just exacerbates victimhood.
Yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
think the word contribute's going to be difficult for people because that poor Kathy, 16-year-old, I didn't in that moment as that physical self mean to contribute, didn't contribute. I think you mean it in a bigger sense.
It
I
is.
was
And
there at that time potentially for a reason that my soul signed up for. Would that be a way to phrase it?
Exactly. And that you weren't conscious in that
No.
moment. It wasn't like when people think, oh, I contributed, it was like, oh, I consciously did that. No, you did not consciously do that. However, now, Kathy, in this current circumstance, who has just gone through an awakening, has had an awareness, any behaviors now, you are contributing to that.
That's right.
So when you put yourself in that position and you put your values in conflict for a monetary thing, you are now contributing to that program playing
And
out.
sustaining
And
it.
that's the key is that anything that's happened in your past when you weren't conscious gets a pass. It's like it gets a leave pass. We're never going to criticize because that's where the ego loves to play out. It just loves to criticize ourselves. But right now,
Agree.
and that all we have is the now, is go, all right, with that current awareness, are you going to continue that behavior or are you going to change? Like I've worked a lot with men who have gone through infidelity, and the reason they don't want to be doing that, like they really don't. They don't like it at all. It makes them feel horrible, but the program keeps running on. And part of the reason why they can't stop is because they're in so much shame, and shame just feeds the program. So I just be this place where I just love them and respect them, and I never make them feel judged or anything. And then I go, okay, I fully get that. The past is done. Do you want to continue doing this or not? And they never do. And I go, okay, what will help you get into more integrity? And that's all we keep focusing on. It's just like what will make you feel you're getting more in integrity. And then it's never about the act. It's more about their feeling, because that's everything is the feelings. And that's how we get people to change, is get them to connect to the feeling. By telling someone you can never do this again, won't work. That's a problem with a lot of addiction programs. But if you say, do you want to keep feeling like this, or would you like a different feeling? And they'll all say yes, generally. I don't like to use absolutes, but most people will.
What a gift. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people and done a lot of work myself. I think the gift of this is you all, I hope, are going to watch this. I mean, you can see the whole gamut of my emotions, my breath, my wow. I can't thank you enough. You came on a podcast to talk about your book, and I made you work me through here, work through my. Thank you. I think,
Kathy, to tell you the truth, that's the best. The book isn't about the book. The book is just a process that people can go through and transform their lives. I want people to have an expansive human experience, and it's all available to them. I've just had the ability to just look at a lot of different spiritual texts, have a lot of personal experience and working with other people and go, oh, there's commonalities here. What's a way we could package it up that people can understand and go through their own process? And there's some fun in there as well, because you'll hear my personal stories too.
where do we send people to you? How do they soak up? How do they get this
Thank
from
you.
you?
Well, I would go to intentionality.com.
It's
I own
easy.
the word, I love it, and that will take you through in a journey, and it's the
Can they
best way.
come work with you live?
Yeah. There's gonna be some. We're doing a breath tour, which is instead of the book tour, we're doing a breath tour.
Oh,
So
I
this is
love it.
happening like, and when this will be released, it will be happening. So you can look around that for
You
America. In
coming
America.
east? You
Yes, I
coming
am.
in?
Yeah, I am.
I'm there.
So that's the best way, because that's an energy intervention, and I just tell people to like focus now on bringing awareness of what you'd like to change, and then come in with intention, and we can recode your subconscious in a very short amount of time, but with a lot of energy.
I want to say, and then I'm going to let you go. When I work with people who are really elevated, like you, like my healer friend, Lynn Carroll, after you do this work, for some people, it's draining, it's exhausting to help someone, try to work through crisis, trauma. But for you, I can even see it on Zoom. It's like the word I have is beatific, beautiful, shining.
It's a beautiful word.
Isn't that beautiful? That's
Yeah.
you. If you watch you, you're not at all drained. You're not at all. I mean, you might go and say, wait, that was a long podcast,
No,
but
no.
I can see it in you, and so that's when you know it is the real deal. It's energy you can trust because it helps you expand as you help me expand, I think.
Thank you. And that's because I'm glad you picked up on that, because I've been there before where you drain, and it's because we've disconnected ourselves to the greatest energy source there is, which is the universal mind, this beautiful source of energy. So I'm just here as a conduit for that. And when we do that, we're great. But a lot of people think that and this is the difference between empathy and compassion. People think they've got to lean in and like be in your pain.
Right.
I'm not being in your pain at all.
No.
I'm loving you. Like, I'm actually like in this moment, I'm like, yes, like this is excitement. It's like when someone says, oh, I'm going through a divorce. I go, congrats. Like, brilliant. It's like, this is not a bit of hardship. And I like to bring a lot of humor to these things, and it doesn't make it any different, but
it's the level of detachment.
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but you are not living it with me. You are an observer, and you're bringing insight and energy and love to it.
Pure love, just loving on you for having that awareness to go, wow, this has been playing out, and enough humility to go, yeah, I want this to be different. Wonderful. And then if everyone just did that, oh, my life would be a lot nicer too, because then everyone would be walking around being happier and more conscious.
My God, Finnian, I am so blessed to have met you. Thank you for this incredible energy healing session, trauma healing session. People, run to what Finnian has, read his book, watch his videos, go on the breath tour with him. I'm so grateful for you. I am. Thank you so much for doing that with me. I'm really floored. In a good way, in a happy way.
Gift. Thank you for opening up your heart to me, Kathy. That was beautiful. And I'm here to help in any way I can.
Thank you. All right, people, you know what I always say. If you don't have a question about this, or if you're not moved or intrigued or puzzled, or there's a word you didn't like, we're not doing our job here. We're wanting to really make a difference. So help us do that. Write your question wherever you see this. Give us a comment. I have a feeling Finnian will answer, or we'll do our best to help you on your journey. Thank you for letting me go very bare with you too. That's how much I love y'all, my Finding Brave community. And Finnian, come back again, will you please? It was so beautiful. All right, everyone. I hope this was inspirational for you. Have a wonderful 2 weeks, and we will see you next time. Hi, folks. Kathy here. So are you thinking about launching a new podcast, or have you been at it a while and recognize it's time for more or better production help to create the best podcast you can? I totally understand. I've been podcasting for over 6 years, and I know how challenging it can be. That's why I'm really excited to share some key information about the great production team I'm using now called We Edit Podcasts. I've been working with them for well over a year, and I've been so happy with the results. They're a full-service production agency, and their services give me access to a wonderful team of seasoned audio engineers and editors who help create a polished professional sound. And they work hard to ensure that my particular podcasting approach and style comes through in every episode. They also help me make sure that my guests are reflected in the best possible light through the creation of terrific show notes, which is an important part of the show for me. Their process is easy and streamlined, and their responsiveness and customer service is terrific too. If you're ready for better production help, definitely check them out and take advantage of their free trial episode, allowing you to sample their process and quality to see if it's a great fit for you. I'm confident you'll love them. Just go to the link weeditpodcasts.com/findingbrave. That's my special link for you, and book your free call today. Happy podcasting. Thanks so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to check out findingbrave.org for more programs, resources, and tips. And tune in next time for your weekly dose of Finding Brave.